Welcome to Tales from the Tables with your hosts, Rob Bradley,
John Charles Ceccarelli,
and James Burrows.
Ooh, happy Halloween!
Yes.
Woo!
Happy
Halloween! Yes,
We all
yes,
had to do it,
yes.
didn't we?
Yeah, right. Yeah. How you guys doing? You well?
Good.
Both well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Cool.
bad, not bad.
Great.
Excited to be back at the mic. Let's
Yeah,
do
right. Yeah,
this.
two weeks
Yes.
off. Yeah,
I
two lovely
know.
weeks off. What have you guys been up to? Anything cute?
Um,
James? What have you been up
oh
to?
yeah. Actually, I went to so last week went to a Halloween themed sort of like haunted house type thing called
Ooh.
Primeval in Norwich, which
Oh
is
wow.
fantastic. So they've got like a lovely food truck
Primeval.
area. Yeah, and there's like 5 different zones, and it's like one of those haunted house. People jump out at you, chase you with chainsaws,
Oh
all fun
wow.
Right,
stuff.
right.
But it's really
Nice.
cool. So
Is
there's
it
like a
Very cool.
circus.
purely for Halloween or is it all year round or
No, it's purely Halloween. So they're set up for
Mm,
I think a few weeks in October each year at a
wow.
nice.
dinosaur like park. It's like a
Oh,
kids dinosaur
nice.
play park type thing. So there's all these
Wow.
huge like terrifying looking dinosaurs staring over you the entire time, and there's like lovely walks through the forest.
That's
Um,
amazing. Oh, that sounds
yeah,
so cool. I
so
want to do that.
it's pretty cool. Yeah. So yeah,
I
got to
I
go
was
see
gonna
that.
ask you, did you dress up for this or did you just go as a civilian to be scared?
No, civilian to be scared.
Nice.
There were a couple of people dressed up who weren't working there, but I think most people
Mhm.
didn't dress up for it. I
Yeah.
feel like you're sort of like treading on people's toes if you go there dressed up all spooky.
Hmm.
Rock on.
Okay, cool.
I
How's
feel like I haven't done anything for Halloween. I haven't
Hmm.
dressed up. I haven't gone to any parties. I'm like, I got to figure something out in the next day and a half, or like literally half a day, probably.
Will you have trick or treaters knocking on your door, JC?
Probably. So our our house is famously like we don't decorate for Halloween, but it looks so run down and old and like unraked and everything that, and it's just an old looking house that I think it's the most haunted house on the block. We don't need the decorations, all right? We have the dead trees and the leaves everywhere and the old dark wooden shingles and all
Oh
this other
wow,
stuff. It's just it's just that one
cool.
house where the weirdos live and it's
Do you
great.
have do you
It's
have a
great.
porch?
We don't. No, we have
Oh,
a crumbling concrete stair that leads up to the front wooden door,
oh
and
man.
that's like 4 inches thick and reinforced, and this and that. So, yeah,
Wow.
it's.
Someone was
I think people have been trick or treating less in recent
mm,
years because they're afraid to come up to the house, and it's great. Like I love that.
oh man. Someone was saying the other day, I don't know who it was, someone I was talking to, saying about how the reason why in New York the steps you go up steps to go to your front door rather than having your
Mhm.
front door on a level, you go up some steps to get to it. And it's something to
Yeah.
do with the horses, isn't it? Like the horse poo or something to do with that. Like in
Oh,
like
really? Ooh, I had no idea.
apparently, yeah, it was something to do with the horses, um, because there was so much like poo everywhere
Right.
apparently in the
Right.
street that they
Apparently.
they used to because apparently there's up by the steps there's like a thing for you to scrape your shoes on to get your to
Oh,
get the horse poo
I
off
guess in the city that is true. I have
in
seen
the
that a
city.
fair bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never realized it had to do with that, but that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? So you could scrape your
Hmm.
shoe and
Yeah.
not have to
Before.
like come in directly from street level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's what
interesting.
apparently anyway. It's, what the hell.
Yeah.
So
I
so
think ours
rather sorry, JC.
no, I was just gonna say, I think our house in our neighborhood, a lot of the houses are just like that. We have kind of like the main house is on the second floor, and then the
Hmm.
bottom one tends to act either as like a spare area, or the first floor sometimes is what we consider a basement, even though it's not truly underground and stuff like that. But it's
Yeah.
reinforced with concrete from the bottom, so it feels like a basement, and it's
Got it.
cooler. So yeah, yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
It's
Nice.
just
Um,
weird. It's crazy to me that rather than just do something about the amount of horse poo, they've just been like, you know what,
we'll
we'll
just
change
build our houses
Just
fundamentally
higher.
raise
how
the
people
houses.
get into their
Yeah. Yeah.
houses.
Right. Yeah.
Oh god,
I might be
yeah.
totally wrong. Like whoever's told me this might be absolutely full of BS. but
Right. Full
literally
of
or
HS
HS.
horseshit. Yeah.
I'm going to choose to
Thanks.
believe it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I come to think of it, actually, I do have things bookending my Halloween experience that are creepy, right?
Mm,
Obviously, we have Rolldark Fest, but over in November, which
mm,
is haunted themed, and
yep.
then in September I had gone to California, and I was there with a few friends, and we did a whole bunch of haunted attractions at Universal, basically as soon as they opened for their like Halloween horror nights. And I, God, I think we went through something like 6 of those haunted style attractions where, people jump out at you with chainsaws and are creepy around the room, but all of them themed for like different movies that were coming out around this time, like the new Chucky film and the new, I think it's an Evil Dead film. And one of them was like a Stranger Things experience. So there was Vecna and
Oh,
stuff like
cool.
that. But yeah, so it felt different, but at the same time, you realized how much sameness was present in each of these. Like the room
Mm,
structure was kind of similar. The timing of that like last haunted thing jumping out to scare you kind of started to see a pattern in it, and you're like,
yeah.
oh, I see the creative team cut some corners, and I see how this worked. Yeah.
Brilliant. Cool. Yeah, I did we had a little Halloween party at the weekend
Nice.
on Saturday. Had some friends over. I was dressed as Gomez, and Charlotte, my partner, was dressed as Morticia. It was good
Yes,
fun.
couple
Yeah, it was good
goals.
fun. Yeah, a couple goals. Yeah, right. It was really good fun actually. But I think for the last 2 weeks, I've spent most of my time trying to learn how to play this game here, Dwarf
Ooh,
Dwarf Fortress.
Dwarf Fortress, what is
Okay.
that?
Yes. So it's one of the oldest. It's been around for about 20 years. It's two brothers that have built this game, and it's probably I think it's the very first colony sim game ever made. And
Oh,
Okay.
whoa.
so similar to like RimWorld, that type of thing. Very
Right,
sort of
right.
basic graphics. The one you can actually buy, well, you can download the game for free,
Uh-huh.
but the game that you download for free has got such basic graphics. It is literally like a dwarf is like a pound symbol or something like that, and it's like really blocky. It's a really I
Oh,
think
it's
the barrier to
amazing.
entry is massive to get in. But they've literally, I think it was either 2 months ago or 3 months ago, they released the Steam edition, and it's about £22 or £26, something like that.
Uh-huh.
But I've been getting into it because the depth in it is insane. Like there's
Really?
so much depth to this game. It's crazy. Yeah, yeah. It's really,
And like,
really
and yet the framework and the structure of it is like super basic and 8-bit looking from the cover of
yeah,
that thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah. The one that's on Steam is a bit more of an updated graphic engine, but it's still very basic. It's
Got it, got it.
like an old school Zelda game. Do you remember
You know
like
what
Oh,
that
so yeah,
reminds me
yeah.
of?
yeah?
Do you guys watch Community, or have you seen
Yes.
Community?
I've
Yes.
seen a
That
few
do you
Love
episodes. It's not
Community.
Yeah, there's a great, I think James, you'll know what I'm talking about, but for those of you who haven't, and Rob, maybe you haven't seen this one, there's an episode where the characters go into a very old school retro-esque 8-bit video game, and they play as little avatar versions of themselves.
All right, cool.
And it's deceptively simple in the beginning, but slowly they start to realize the game is actually incredibly complex. And
Oh,
Abed
cool.
unlocks like all this backroom stuff. He ends up marrying a villager and siring like an army of miniature Abeds to do work for him and stuff. And that's how they defeat the
That
big bad at the end.
that does
It's
sound like Dwarf Fortress. That sounds
really
really
that
cool.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah.
based on that. I wouldn't
It's
wonder if we're at least inspired by it. So
it's
yeah.
very similar to Minecraft in the sense of like you can have like a really basic experience with it if you wanted to build yourself a fort, dig underground, have like a base and stuff. Lovely, lovely. Go out hunting, have a kitchen, make food, feed your dwarfs. That's that. But with this, every single dwarf has their own individual personality, their own individual
Whoa.
goals in life. Some of them could be really lazy, some of them could be really like ambitious, and it's just crazy. Like you could make a dorm for all your dwarfs, but one of them is refusing to sleep there because they want to have their own bedroom.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Or one of them has a phobia, or one of them has a phobia for cats, and you end up getting a stray cat, and it just was like will not go anywhere near the cat, and
That's
it's like always
hilarious.
unhappy. It's crazy. It's
But
crazy.
That's
so
like
so
I
basic, but
love
so complicated.
Oh,
exactly.
it's ridiculous. It's
I
ridiculous.
love the idea of incredibly deceptively simple games with these ridiculously complex like mechanics
Yeah.
and secret personalities and stuff like that. That's so
Oh,
funny.
it's really really
You
good.
need to watch that episode of Community. You'd really appreciate it, Rob.
I
I'll
will.
send you the
I
link.
will. Yeah, send it to me. I'll definitely check it out. Definitely will
hilarious.
check it out. Yeah. So how have your games been this week? Have you guys been running many games?
Yes. Well, I had 2 last week. Had my Spectarium game on Wednesday, which was very fun. I have a story that I'll be telling later. It tells from the table
Cool.
for that.
Great
Still
stuff.
running Keys from the Golden Vault, and then I had an in-person game, which was really nice to do.
Oh wow.
Quite close to me.
Mm.
So took the old TV board game table. Had some cool maps up and got to use a load of minis. So yeah, it was fun. They were a
Sweet.
nice group of guys actually.
Very cool.
Sweet.
Nice.
What terrain do you have, James? You got like the what's it called again? I can't,
What's
is it
Dwar-
Dwarven
oh,
Forge?
I've got some Dwarven Forge stuff,
Yeah.
and what I do have as well as some MDF, sort of wooden terrain. So I've got like a ship that's 3 layers, and it's just essentially 3 layers of wood and held together
Great.
by other bits, and there's no glue or anything involved. It's I think I shipped it from a company called Tower Rex, and I've got a tavern that they've done as well. That's all MDF wood that sort of
Oh,
all clicks together
sick.
like almost like a puzzle. So that didn't need any glue either. But yeah, that's
Great.
really good actually. It's all
Cool.
gridded out on the inside and comes with like tables, chairs, a whole bar. So I need to paint it really because at the moment it's just all wooden. So if you have everything that matches it, it'd be very stylized and cool.
Mm.
But I have
Yeah.
plastic terrain as well, so some of the buildings I have look painted, and then there's this one brown wooden block.
Oh well, it doesn't matter. I think it's like as long as you've got it there, it's cool. That's
Right.
how you kind of like
Right.
run your games.
I mean, it's got to be better than marker on a Chessex mat, which is
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
version of in-person things. So,
Yeah. No, that's cool, James. Oh well. Wicked. Did they have a good time? The private game?
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully, I'll get to run another game for them. They were doing a game just before a load of them went off to uni. So
Cool.
hopefully they'll be in touch when they get back. They said so maybe closer to Christmas or in a half term or something.
Oh, I thought you meant like
Travel
when they
wise.
were done with their term, like 4 years later after.
Yeah, right.
They'll be
Yeah,
back.
right. So they'll be back in 4 years.
Yeah, 4 years.
Like,
No, a little
"Ah,
closer
now-
than that.
Remember
now
that
don't-"
legendary D&D session we had 4 years ago? Let's redo it.
Brilliant.
Hopefully
Was-
closer than that. But yeah.
Was it quite close to your home, wasn't it? Is
Yes,
that
it
the right
was.
one?
It was
Yeah.
only a 20-minute drive, which
Yeah, nice.
when my cars died, it was very handy.
Oh yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, you told me about this. Yeah.
Yeah, the floods killed it, and it is
Oh,
irreparable.
shoot.
So
Hmm.
a new
Do you
car
have-
is on the horizon.
Does your
for
insurance
James.
cover that or something?
Yes, it will.
Thank
Just
God.
about.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I'll take a little bit of a hit on my no claims, but otherwise, I'm fine.
It's
Right,
a real fucker. In the UK, JC, we get so many floods. Like it's just
Really?
nuts.
Jesus.
Yeah. Well, especially where James and I
Rain.
both live. So James lives in Cambridge and I live in Oxford. And
Mhm.
although they're quite far apart, they're very flat
Mm.
areas.
Right.
And they're just typical floodplains. Like they just get absolutely
Damn.
horrendous.
There's a
Oh,
lot
I-
of history and structure there. I'm surprised that there's not more
Yeah, I know.
system in city infrastructure.
It's
or...
why the RAF chose it because they can just take off and not have to worry about it. The floods, they can
Yep,
just fly around. Like that's why you got loads of RAF bases in Oxfordshire and Cambridge because it's just
Oh,
so
nice,
flat.
nice.
It's loads of sky here.
So much
Right.
sky.
So much sky.
You could see it all.
Yeah, you
Well,
can see it.
where I live is technically or was an island, but they put all drainage in. So Ely is the city closest to me with the cathedral, and it
Mhm.
was the Isle of Ely. And then where I live is a place called Littleport, and that is
Right.
obviously at one point a tiny port.
Wow, that's cool.
so
I didn't know
they-
that. That's
Yeah,
great.
so they drained all the water with these huge ditches around everywhere to redirect all the water. But it does mean that it is a bit of a flood risk.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
damn.
right. Yeah.
To the point where your car gets whacked
Yeah.
up. That
Yeah.
sucks.
Oh man.
So I'm going to buy a slightly bigger car and
Yeah.
not one that's
Transporting
not
more
quite as
terrain.
low. Yeah, exactly. I need it for the terrain.
What you been looking at? What's on your radar? Nice.
Probably maybe like a Vauxhall Crossland or a Seat
cool.
Arona, something like
nice.
that.
So you want something that's a bit more higher up?
Yeah,
an
something that's
SUV.
higher, so I don't have to worry when I drive through puddles, which is what happened to me. So I was stranded at the roadside for a while until
no.
Jade came
Oh,
and
that's
rescued me.
That's my fear.
With the
Oh,
electrics
no.
all slowly dying in the car and the
Mm.
engine had completely
Oof.
died. Well,
Oh,
Terrifying.
the pitch black in torrential rain on a single track country road.
Yeah.
Oh, Hey
The
ho.
only time that ever happened to me was ironically in the middle of the desert in the middle of the summer.
Really?
We got a
Bloody
yeah.
hell.
This was the legendary trip when I moved out to the West Coast. I'll never do that by car again. But it was everything that could have gone wrong did. Like the car failed on the first day. We had to replace the transmission in a random town that we had never been in before. And then we finally headed west after spending way too much money on that. And the car continued to have issues. And then we were so close. I think we were like 2 days away from our destination from LA, and we were crossing the border between Arizona and New Mexico, which is that's just all desert over there.
Mm.
And
Wow.
for whatever reason, we got a hailstorm
Holy
this was
shit.
in August too, and we just got a thundering hailstorm which dented the
Fuck.
crap out of my car, and we couldn't see. We ended up stranding the car on a bridge and like looking for shelter because we were afraid that something was going to happen,
Jesus
and no
Christ.
traffic was moving, and the only way I could continue was following the lights of the truck that I could see in front of me, which was probably only about 15 to 20 feet in front of me, but it looked like it was a mile away because that's how much rain and hail there was.
God.
We got the car back and it like limped its way back to California after that, but it was a nightmare. It was
Shit.
random.
So
And
you,
then that night we got something we'd never seen before, a red lightning storm. I don't know if you
fuck.
guys have ever
Oh
seen
wow.
that. It
I've
it
heard of
looked like
them.
the apocalypse. Like there was
Sick.
lightning sipping between the thunderclouds in the dark in the night up ahead of us, and it was
That's
red, not
amazing.
white or blue. And we were like, "Oh, we're dead. This is it. This is the sign of God
Oh,
being like, don't
we've
do
arrived.
this."
We've arrived in hell.
Yeah, yeah. This is a
Oh, here we
furnace.
are. Oh.
Like
Well,
it was over.
it sounds to me like God was trying to tell you that maybe the move to California wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Sounds
We
like-
stubbornly persisted, but
yeah.
for some odd reason, I've ended up back in New York. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, bizarre. I can't believe. So you drove from New York to California?
Well, technically, we drove down first, so we drove south to Atlanta, and then we headed west from there to California. Yeah,
Fucking hell, that must have been an
That's
epic
a hell of a
journey.
drive.
3 weeks, 3 week trip.
3 weeks.
3 weeks. We did some sightseeing.
What? Oh right, okay.
We did some mountain climbing. We did some, well, not literal mountain climbing. Like we took the car and limped it up a mountain a few times.
Wow.
And here's the worst part. Our lives, this was my ex-partner and I, our lives were packed into that car, right? So
Yeah, right.
everything of value that we owned, all of our books, all of our memories, all of our clothes, all of our electronics, our computers, whatever, that was all packed into this one 4-door sedan. It wasn't even like an SUV
Jesus.
or anything. And previously, because I'd been living with you guys in the UK, that car had sat on a lot for a year and a half without being driven, almost 2 years without being driven. So it was just every problem under the sun. I had to replace all 4 tires due to tire rot, the battery, 3 solenoids, the transmission. The weight
Jesus.
was too much for the car. Yeah. I finally sold it literally a couple
But
months ago.
did you get to Wally World?
We did. We made
You
it.
did. Okay, great. Okay, great. Not everyone will get that reference, but
Yep.
some
We
might.
made it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's basically what you just painted in my mind. Is that film National Lampoon's Vacation? Yeah.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
that's actually what it felt like, honestly.
Really?
Like it was a Chevy Chase sort of moment. Everything was
Oh
going bad.
man.
Yeah, but we did it, and
Yeah.
we could say we did it.
It must have
Grand
given you
Canyon
some
was
real.
gorgeous.
Yeah, I bet it was. I bet
Yeah.
it was. Must have given you some real insight into the size of your country. doing that.
Yeah, it's massive. It's stupidly massive, and like for all the fact that a lot of it feels crowded, there are great open stretches of absolute nothing for miles
Yeah,
upon
right.
miles in some places.
Wow.
So yeah.
Crikey.
Hmm.
Yeah, amazing. It's interesting to think as well. Like in America, I think there isn't really any land that nobody doesn't own. Somebody owns it.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So even when
those
you're driving through the
expanses-
literal middle of nowhere on historic Route 66, which is kind of like the old 60s, 70s road that a lot of people would take, which has now been replaced by more modern highways mostly, and a lot of the businesses there are dying. Even those little ghost towns are still technically owned by someone. So yeah.
It's bonkers,
It's kind
isn't
of
it?
it was fun. It was kind of wacky, but and stressful as hell. But it was cool
Yeah.
in a way.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And you moved out to California to increase your was it your voiceover work, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I picked up a little bit of extra voiceover work while I was there,
Cool.
but mostly I still ran D&D games, and I'm still
Yeah,
doing that
nice.
here. So
Nice.
yeah.
James and I were talking. I don't know if you that probably actually just before you came on. Actually, before we started the podcast, we're talking about how D&D has become so cool, and about how it's probably down to the fact that Critical Role
Mhm.
exists and how they've made it sort of, you're watching these American, California, sort of LA sort of types playing
Yep.
D&D, rolling dice, but they seem like they should be the sorts of people that aren't doing that, but actually they are doing that, and
Right.
it's
Yep.
kind of opened the game up to a more of a broader spectrum of people, I think.
For sure. And
Yeah.
I think Critical Role certainly kicked it off, I think, but there's been so many other good ones like Dimension 20 and a whole bunch of others, the Dungeons and Daddies podcasts and
Yeah, it's funny.
all these cool live play things that just have made people realize, even Baldur's Gate 3, right? Like the voice actors are
Yeah,
playing their
totally.
own game. I just read something about oh god, I'm going to butcher his name, but I think it's Doug Cockrell, the guy who voices Geralt of Rivia from the Witcher games. Him and a whole bunch of other voice actors are also starting their own D&D podcast
Oh wow.
or live play series or something.
Brilliant.
And they are apparently, like, a lot of people are really excited about this, and it's apparently going to be really good momentum. So I don't know, we'll see. So
They're doing a D&D one,
we got to get
not a
a
RPG.
yeah, that's true. That's I mean, surprisingly, right?
Yeah.
But we got to get ours back off the ground, right?
Yeah, we
Soon.
should. We totally should. Maybe we could like I don't know, do like an expansion from this somehow.
Mm.
Maybe
Well,
kind of like expand into the realms of doing a live one.
well, I'm
Yeah,
running
the
a
world of
stream
Tail
soon.
Table.
JC, I don't know.
Table.
JC, are you doing one of the because we're doing charity streams throughout November for Movember?
Yeah, I think that
I'm
was
running one.
mostly an in-person thing, right? So sadly, no, because I'm not going to be there until the very end. But I'm going to be watching for sure.
Yeah, it'll be good fun.
My
Yeah,
groups
there's
are online. Yeah,
yeah, yours is all online, aren't they, James?
yeah.
Looking forward
Should
to it.
be yeah, really
What
good.
date is it again? 17th of November.
17th of November, Friday the 17th of November.
Cool. I think what we'll
Remember
have to do,
the 17th of
because
November.
I'm producing that one for you, aren't I? I think it might be a good idea to turn up an hour before we start, just so I can like figure out what the hell I'm doing. or maybe we'll meet beforehand and we'll figure it out beforehand. That might be a good idea.
Yeah.
So I don't just want to wing it, which I probably will just do.
If there's a
anyway.
way we can use Discord to do the video,
yeah, we can.
and audio,
Yeah,
that would be perfect, because Luke has got an incredible ability to find the sound bites to use on the soundboard that you get built in with Discord. He uploads
great.
his own ones, and
Cool.
usually very, very funny. and
Awesome.
weirdly appropriate ones that you can find for any scenario.
Oh, great.
Amazing.
That'd be fun. Yeah, that'd be really fun. How many players have you got all together, James, in your group?
Four
for November. Okay, four.
Four
Let
confirmed.
me write this down. Sorry, everyone that's listening. This is
doing some quick logistics.
Just quick ad.
This is why you tune in, right?
Yep.
See how it all works
Four
behind the
players,
scenes.
17th of November. Exactly. I was just like, fucking hell. All right, cool. Great. I have to redo the template that I made. That's fine. No worries.
Amazing.
Sweet. So, any news from the RPG world then, James?
Yes, we've got quite a bit. So first of all, talking of Critical Role, they are doing their own charity live stream for Red Nose Day.
Those cheeky bastards.
I know, at the end of November.
us.
So thankfully, it doesn't coincide with mine at all. So if anything, mine's like a warm up for the opening for them.
But you're still the OG. That's the important part. You're the original, the classic.
Yes,
exactly.
Mine's first, so
right.
So they're doing that on November 28th, and then it will release on podcast on the 29th. Nice. Oh, sorry, and December 5th. So live November 28th, video on demand November 29th, podcast December 5th.
Do you guys remember when Matt Mercer did the Red Nose Day thing with Stephen Colbert? Did you guys ever see that?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
what a legendary
just the two
clip,
of them, wasn't it?
Yeah, just the two of them. and Colbert was incredible. Such
Yeah,
a
he really
such a
He's
enjoyed
good
it.
great. He's
thing
a
to watch.
massive dork as well.
He's
So
Yeah.
that's
Oh yeah.
he loves Lord of the Rings, doesn't he?
He does. My
huge.
favorite.
got-
I was just having this conversation with my friend who does listen to this podcast. So hi, Chrissy. But my favorite all time clip from any talk show interview is Colbert and James Franco having a Lord of the Rings off,
Oh
and
wow.
Franco he challenges. He's like, "All right, Colbert." He's like, I've been rereading the Silmarillion. Name me just three of the Valar, right? The sort of gods of the Lord of the Rings universe.
Gods.
And you could see Colbert's face change in that interview for a second, right? He's all like friendly host, and then he just taps into his inner hidden nerd for a second. And you see it like a shadow cast over his face, and he's like, and I don't know them very well, but he's like, "Do you mean Onway, who kindled the night stars, or do you mean Omar?" And he like proceeds to
Yeah.
give like all the Valar names and all of what they do in
Great.
their domains, and like it gets increasingly good. And he's like, "You come into my house? How
Yeah,
dare
right.
you?" It's legendary.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
But anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, James.
No, that's totally fine. So that's all the Critical Role news I have this week. The other news that we have is that due to a manufacturing issue, the physical version of the Deck of Many Things is going to have a delayed release date. So the
Whoa.
digital one's still coming out on November 14th. So it's not going to
Okay.
impact me personally, but if you have purchased a digital and physical bundle together, you'll still receive the early access to the book on October 31st, so tomorrow. But your physical copy will be delayed. So yes.
Oh well.
Whoa.
Not
Do we know what
not
the
the end of the
defect
world.
was?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, I wonder.
I think there have been some people's ideas there. There might be a defect with the foil cards. So they
Yeah,
might
Okay,
right.
need
that
to
makes sense.
recall some of those because apparently foil cards nightmare to work with.
Yeah.
No, really.
I wonder. Maybe this is
Apparently so.
Penguin Random House sabotaging the job, being like, "Oh, you don't want to use this anymore? Let's send
Yeah,
some
right.
guy to the print house and screw up the foil run."
You want to go with a cheaper
Cheeky
print house, do you?
buggers.
Well, this
Yeah,
is what
right.
happens.
I wonder if we'll notice a difference. I don't think we would
Mm.
we?
Oh,
I
you
don't
know
know.
what I really hope doesn't happen is that like the format of the outside of the books don't start to change because if I have to put them next to, if I do get a physical copy of anything, I don't want to put it next to my old physical copies of stuff and have everything be like slightly out of
The
center or
D&D
doesn't match
logo
up.
is not quite sitting in the right place.
Yes.
I feel you, and I had to come to terms with that ages ago when I started collecting the collector's editions of the books
Yeah.
and releases, and I'm like, oh, the logo's placement is completely inconsistent. I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to just live with this.
Really? What on the
Yeah.
Yeah.
the collectors ones? They're not like in the
Yeah.
same place.
Well, yeah, no, they don't. They don't have the logo in the same
Ah.
place. Not usually, or better said, the logo is stylized, so there's more graphics and stuff around it, which means that they all sit and look different. And obviously, the covers are completely different, and sometimes the material of the cover is completely different. So, if anything, it kind of looks cool because it less like an encyclopedia set, like
Yeah.
a standard collection would look, but more like a very diverse, colorful, each book is its own thing kind of collection, right?
Nice.
Although I miss the soft touch. They're not really, I don't know, the last couple of releases haven't been doing the soft touch covers, which is really sad. Those were nice.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
get
yeah.
all the collector's edition ones, then it wouldn't bother me that they don't
Yeah.
all match. But it's because
Right.
I have like 5 that match and then 2 that don't.
That don't.
It's
Yep.
irritating.
Yeah. See, Robbie, I see it behind you. You have the
Yeah,
nice.
I've only scrimped on
standard
the
versions.
standard versions. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've got some
Yeah.
Star Trek ones in there as well. And gee,
They're just
no,
think
I
mucking
hate
up your
you.
collection.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
mucking it up. Yeah, right. Just literally in the middle. One book's not facing the right way round.
Oh God,
That's
that
it,
means
yeah.
you use them though. That's a sign of usage. That's good.
That's me reading it. What's that one? That's the gamma. That's the gamma quadrant. Star Trek Adventures.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a right dork.
Tucked away with your D&D books. Gosh,
It's fine.
horrible.
We're allowed to be dorks.
Yeah.
right.
When you care about your book placement and organization, clearly we're in the right vein
Yeah.
of nerdiness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
I always like people's bookshelves done by color, but you find that book series don't ever run in color order, and I have to have them like chronologically in order.
Mm,
Otherwise, it
mm.
annoys
I
me.
respect that.
Otherwise, I'd really like to
Yeah.
have them organized by color, but it would just it'd be horrible to
Oh,
try and
God,
read a
really?
series. I
I
started getting.
want
Oh,
I
sorry,
want a
go on.
series like an 18-book series or something where like the spine slowly creates a piece of artwork. You've
Oh,
seen those,
yeah,
right? Yeah, like
nice,
some of them, some people
nice.
have done it with Lord of the Rings, but that's
Yeah.
3 books plus whatever else you're adding
Wheel
in.
of Time.
Wheel
You
of
can
Time
get.
probably does that. Yeah,
You
yeah.
can.
How many
I've
books?
got
18, 19 with that series?
something
it's a lot.
crazy.
Something like
It's a
that.
lot.
It's a
Well,
lot.
The Sword of Truth as well. That was like a 15, 16 book series, but
Yeah.
Sword of
oof.
Truth.
Oh
Hmm.
God. Forget I mentioned anything, Rob. Don't
Oh,
ever
really?
look it up.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Robert Jordan. No, not Robert Jordan. Whatever his name was.
Brandon.
Terry Goodkind. That was
Terry
it.
Terry Goodkind.
Terry Goodkind.
Good
Yeah, it started okay and ended not great, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
Oh.
That's
After
annoying.
15 books, that's a lot of reading to get to a shit
Yeah.
ending.
Well, here's the thing. In the weird vein that like it started with light philosophy and very slowly became very heavy-handed Ayn Rand philosophy. Like
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
really? Yeah.
oh
Atlas,
yeah.
Atlas Shrugged.
Atlas Shrugged-esque. Very
Oh,
like
wow.
it felt at the end like I was reading a slightly more fantastical version of Atlas Shrugged. That's what it felt like.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
hmm
How? Wow, what a
hmm And
strange.
I'm
what a
ashamed I didn't
strange
catch
thing
it
to
sooner,
put.
but I was like, at this point I gotta finish
Yeah.
it, you know?
Yeah, man. I read Atlas Shrugged and I really liked it,
Mm.
but I didn't like the philosophy.
Mhm, mhm.
But I loved how is a she, isn't it? Aaron Rand is a she,
Yeah,
isn't
Ayn
she?
Rand.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, she's
Yeah.
she, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved how she wrote it. I loved like
Yeah, her
the
prose is wonderful,
imageries.
but the
Yeah,
philosophy
beautiful.
is a little heavy-handed and can be a little
Yeah.
right-leaning. And I wonder how many podcast listeners we're going to lose now that I'm bashing Terry Goodkind's Sort of Truth series.
Oh, you're not
But-
bashing Terry Goodkind. You're just offering up your take and your criticism.
That's true.
all.
That's true. Although, I mean, even from the first book, I'm sorry, the villain's name is Darken Rawl. Really?
Okay, cool. Dark and Brawl, yeah, cool.
Darken Rawl.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, fun times on that.
I tried reading the Stephen King attempt at fantasy with his Dark Tower series.
Oh yeah, me
Just-
too. Once upon a
I
time.
just couldn't get past the fourth book with
Hmm.
I think we might have spoken about this before with the riddles on the train.
Right.
And it was just because it just seemed like he was just making up stuff. I was just like, oh, this is just crap.
I
He
hear
was
that
just filling
some.
his
I
book
haven't
with-
read the whole series through. I think I read the first 3 books. I don't even get up to the fourth.
Mm.
What I hear from that is that there's certain hurdles you have to get over, but eventually, like as a whole, the series is pretty good. I have
Okay.
heard the same thing about Jim Butcher's. Oh God, I'm blanking right now. You
Jim
guys know
Butcher.
Jim Butcher. It's like
Yeah,
the
I know Jim
urban.
Butcher, yep.
Oh, yeah, I do.
Yeah, he's got
The
like
urban wizard from Chicago,
yeah.
whose name I can't remember right now, and
Yep.
everyone listening probably hates me.
Jim
Oh.
Butcher. Yep, I know the.
Mhm, mhm,
I can
mhm,
see
mhm.
it. I can see it in my
Yep, I
head.
heard really good things about this series, and I have yet to dive into it fully, so I've got to do it at some point. It is
Warrior
Dresden
Born, is it?
Files.
Dresden
Dresden
Files.
Files.
Yeah,
That's
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Dresden
Yeah.
Files. Yep.
Yeah, it's that kind of okay. Listen, guys,
Cool.
it's a Monday morning. All right, it's not even 10 o'clock. I haven't had coffee. Please forgive us for not
Yeah,
remembering right
right.
off the bat.
Yeah, I had one of his books, but I never read it.
Hmm.
Jim Butcher. I had a few
Yeah.
of his Skin Game I had.
Oh yeah.
I used
Skin
to get
game.
I used to get sent books all the time by publishers when I used to be because I was to be a book critic for Huffington Post, and they used to send me so many books, and
Hmm.
it just got to the point where I just couldn't read any of them because it's just like and they'd always send me like book 3 in a series that I've
And you're
not
like,
read.
thanks.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
thanks, yeah, I'm not going to read.
What do I do
How
with
am I
this?
yeah, what can I do with it? Yeah, I could use it as a like a
Hmm.
doorstop or something. Sort of thing.
Actually, I just looked it up. The Dresden Files is still going. Like the
Oh,
last
Yeah,
book
it's
was
huge.
published in 2020, and that was book 17. Book 18 is TBA. Apparently, it's called 12 Months, and we think it's 2024. So, like, it's still being worked on. That's cool.
Have either of you ever written any books? You ever?
No,
Wanted to write one,
I've
I
I've
think I've
started
published.
one,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
who knows
Yeah, I have as well.
when that
It's ages ago.
Yeah.
What's
It's
yours
a-
about, James?
Oh, it's your standard fantasy with a bit of
Hmm.
Lovecraft chucked in.
Oh, cool.
Pretty
Great.
easy.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, mine was standard fantasy as well. So
Yeah.
this is a book series that like I've always dreamt about finishing, and I started it when I was 11. So it's needless to say, gone through numerous rewrites, and
Yeah.
one day
Right.
I'll get
Wow.
back into it seriously. But your taste and your competence evolves, I guess, as you
Yep.
mature a bit. And but
Totally.
I recently unearthed some of those original notes that I started writing when I was like 11 or 12, and I was like, actually, this is a gold mine of weird shit, but it's good. Like I need to
Yeah.
incorporate some of
Great.
this stuff back. And I had great names, and I'm like, where did that go? How come I stutter and stumble with names in my games now? How come I developed all these cool names? So
Hmm. Yeah, it's ace, isn't it?
yeah.
I started writing when I was about sort of 13, 14, something like that.
Hmm.
And being hugely dyslexic, I obviously couldn't actually write anything. And I've read back on some of the stuff I used to write, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I on about?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm like, what? It's
What
like
is
like
this?
grammar of like a, I don't know, just like ending sentences halfway through them. Like just like, what the hell is this? Yeah, it's funny.
Brilliant.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Mm. But yeah.
Rock on.
Any more news, James?
Yes. So, big bit of news.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
There is Unearthed Arcana 8. There is a survey going around for it on the Wizard of the Coast website. But the Unearthed Arcana is for bastions and cantrips. So bastions, it's a system they are thinking about implementing, which is a series of level-dependent benefits. So starting at 5th level, you get a bastion as part of your level up. Well, I suppose it's DM discretion, but
Mm.
at level 5, you can get a bastion. So it contains 2 special facilities that can give you in-game benefits. And as you level up, you'll get 2 more at 9th, 13th, 17th level. And so it looks like it's essentially a base building game, much
Yeah.
like the dwarf thing that you were talking about, Rob. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool stuff actually. It looks like, having read through the PDF that you have access to. So
Hmm.
lots of different rooms and things you can have built into your, like, a menagerie of creatures you can have in there.
Ooh, okay.
Um,
Cool.
Uh-oh.
so you can have
Oh,
like guilds that you like incorporate into it, and they've got a list of guilds on there. Yeah, look, it
God.
looks really cool. So you can have you can have a gaming hall, so you can like open your own casino sort of, and there's tables for the amount of
sweet.
money that brings in from your gambling den. Um,
Oh God.
yeah, it's really cool. So, like, you have a
It does sound pretty
theater,
cool.
teleportation circles, like libraries, smithies, all this sort of stuff that give you benefits in game, and it's something that you've got to make sure that you maintain. And you can have hirelings that maintain it for you, but you're supposed to
Wow.
take time out of the game to do this. And they've given ideas for events within the bastion as well. So like maybe you've got an
Whoa.
employee in your gambling hall who's like is like taking and skimming money off the top and things like that. So like plot hooks that works into it as well for like side quests,
We
which
have
all seems
entered
very
the
cool.
Warlords of Draenor expansion of D&D at this point.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this reminds me of. Building at your home base, certain rooms that give you certain character benefits, different functions and other NPCs that maintain your home base and get you income and stuff like that while you're off adventuring.
It's really
That's
cool.
the Warlords of Draenor WoW expansion. This is exactly what that is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
that was the big thing for that expansion. It otherwise sucked. But that was kind of like, oh, player bases, and you had like your own instance and stuff. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what this felt like, or this feels like.
I mean,
Okay.
it's like a good amount of detail. I feel like there was, who was it who did the book?
Strongholds and Followers.
Strongholds and Followers.
Matt
I feel
Colville.
like it's yeah, that, which is great. I feel like it feels like a
Ace.
less detailed version, like an easier
More
version of
accessible.
that, more
Yeah.
accessible version of that.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
so
That's
yeah, I
what it
mean,
sounds like.
you can have a read through it and give feedback at the moment on the website. So if you do, if you're interested in it, you want to have a read through, and then you find stuff that you don't like or that you want, or changes you'd make, that it's available at the moment to suggest those changes. So if you're really into it, then I'd suggest maybe going and doing that while you can.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds
but
cool.
yeah, and there's also some changes to some cantrips. Most notably, Chill Touch is finally a touch spell Um,
No, does it deal cold damage instead of necrotic
um,
too?
I don't
Critical,
know,
yeah.
but I
Ah,
will find out. Chill touch. What does it do? No, still necrotic, but it is
still
touch.
necrotic. You know what's funny? How Baldur's Gate 3 changed the name of that cantrip. Like literally every other spell in that game that they have is pretty at least title accurate, right? And mechanics
Mm.
very similar. But they called it Bone Chill instead of Chill Touch. I think
Yes.
because they assumed that people would get confused
hmm
similarly that thinking it's a touch spell.
Mm.
God, I bet the designers are kicking themselves over that choice from all those years ago.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah,
Hilarious.
so funny.
Yeah,
oh yes. Also, True Strike has been changed as well.
thank
So
God.
rather than wasting a turn and an action to cast it, incorporate into the spell. You get an attack with the weapon that you're using True Strike
Ah, cool.
on.
Actually, that makes it pretty powerful then. That's just an
Yes.
add advantage cantrip weapon attack. That's pretty cool.
Yes, but
Mm.
it will use your spellcasting ability for the attack and damage rolls instead of using your strength or dexterity. So
Interesting. Okay.
I think that's how
So
they've tried to
more
balance that.
specialized, right? For more things like
Yeah,
Eldritch Knights and Arcane Tricksters, maybe, or Hexblades and stuff. Okay.
Hexblades, I think especially it will be very good
Yeah.
for.
Blade Singers. Right. That's cool, though. That's cool.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else, James?
Uh, News wise, that is all I had for this week.
Okay.
But we got to
Cool.
talk about Planescape, and since it finally came
Oh,
out,
yes,
Oh
we
hold
do.
on,
yeah. Oh,
I'm pulling out my.
oh.
So,
Let's get
by
it
the way,
out.
you are now witnessing, or at least
Yeah.
hearing, for those of you listening, me unwrapping my
Ooh.
Planescape for the first time because I
Ooh, look at
actually
that.
bought it and
Oh, it's
didn't unwrap
massive.
it yet.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. You get a screen as well.
Uh huh.
Sick.
It's like
Oh, lovely.
I
Looks
guess
good.
it's similar to the spell jamming kind of idea, right?
Mm.
They were
Oh
like,
yeah,
"Hey,
yeah,
this is a
yeah.
new setting, so or a
Yeah.
revived setting, if you will."
Adventures in the multiverse. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm excited.
All very current pop culture. Loving a bit of multiverse, aren't they, at the moment?
We are
I've
loving the
been hearing
multiverse.
it's pretty
Everyone's
good.
dipping
I
their
don't know about
toes
you
into different
guys.
universes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. I've not read much into the adventure,
Hmm.
but what I have been doing is reading into the monsters that they've released with it, and they are
Classic.
pretty cool.
Are
They've
they?
Yeah,
also
great. Okay, that's sweet.
they've also released as sort of part of that the multiversal menagerie is an area in the book that allows you to take creatures that already exist and have them have different planes influence them. So like unicorns
Ooh.
influenced by the abyss if they've stayed too close to a portal to the abyss for too long and things like that.
Oh wow,
And
okay,
they've
that's
got
interesting.
a good
Oh, I
list
like it.
of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 13 or 14 different planes and examples of how the creatures can be influenced by them and also people as well. So if you're trying to build NPCs that live in proximity to these gate towns, for instance, that's going to be a major part of the setting and the story as well. It
Nice.
gives you the ability to do that, and so they've got things like the Beastlands. Creatures can see invisible creatures on objects as if they were visible,
Right.
because
Oh,
they're
cool.
the good tracking.
Dude, we got an time dragons?
Oh, there's
Yes.
time dragons. Yeah,
Time
yeah, yeah.
dragons.
Literally like 2 weeks
Oh
too
wow.
late because I had just sort of came up with my own stat block for a time dragon and my own artwork and stuff for one in a game that I was running, and now I'm like, oh well, now they're past it. Great, I can't bring it back. Oh god, or
Yes,
I
there's
can because
the
it's time. You know, maybe
Exactly.
just manipulated
Exactly.
time.
Exactly.
That's
That's
so
why
cool.
Doctor Who works so well. Is just, you can just literally change the plot and change everything all around because there's different timelines, different
Yep.
things. It's like
Reset the count
yeah,
every time that I haven't watched it in several seasons, but I remember back when they were still introducing people and every time they were like, "Oh, this is your final reincarnation, Doctor. There's no more for you." And then they always
yeah,
found a
right.
way to cheat that, right? Like, "Oh,
yeah.
actually there was one that we pulled from the future that's coming now, and
It's so
actually we
ridiculous.
reset the timeline because we can do that." And you're like, "All
Yeah,
right.
no, it's like reset the whole. Oh, you could have just regenerate as often as you like. It's like,
Yep.
oh,
Yep.
right, okay,
Yep."
yeah. It's just like, okay, all right.
Right.
It's like
But I guess it
basically,
was It was kind of clever, right? In a way that
Mm,
only Doctor Who can do, because that way you keep the stakes, so you feel the pressure throughout the whole season, right? Oh God, he's heading to an inevitable end, and there's that moment. What, the Day of the Doctor episode? Remember when the battle of whatever, where he was, and he dies there.
Gallifrey.
Gallifrey. Thank you for
Mm.
remembering. But ultimately, they find a way to wedge that around and change
Yeah.
it, and so it was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really
Very
like
nice.
Doctor Who. I'm into. I have a bit of a love hate relationship with it because
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of the original series. I really love those. The one with David Tennant was great. And then the one with the Matt Smith ones were awesome, but I didn't like Matt Smith so much. But I loved the stories that were in it. And then I think it just after that it just kind of just went a bit silly.
Mm-hmm.
But it was
Capaldi and everything else after
Capaldi.
that.
Capaldi was like I think they wasted Capaldi because Capaldi's a fucking excellent actor.
Right.
I think they wasted him a little bit. Weird because he could have brought some real serious darkness to Doctor Who, which I think he did in some occasions, but other occasions, like there'd be like a Tyrannosaurus Rex attacking London, for example.
Yeah.
It's like and just silly things like that where you just like, come on, like give us like a really gritty story,
I
like the
remember that's exactly my impression from the revival, starting with Eccleston and up through the end of Matt Smith, was that every other episode felt incredible, and then almost in a perfect pattern, the in-between episodes were silly, and there was always like,
yeah,
a blob monster or a T-Rex attacking the city. But
yeah,
then the next one had like insane personal stakes and crazy
yeah,
theories about what happened to this character, and a deep
Mm.
delve into the Doctor's past. And then
yeah.
the next episode was Blob Monster Part 2.
Yeah, exactly. I think what they tried to do with it is they realized that they were because obviously the market with the new lot was children. They were going after like sort of
Mm,
young, sort of like teen, like young sort of teens
sure.
as being the market. But in a way, Doctor Who, the original one, was for adults, and it just
Hmm.
happened that kids would sometimes watch it but they weren't supposed to, which is why it was quite scary. Like there's so
Yeah.
many dark episodes in the
Yeah.
old original ones that were like, you can clearly tell this was not made for children. This is like
Hmm.
dark
Hmm.
shit. Whereas
Hmm.
like the new ones is like, oh yeah, squidgy fun times. Woo, 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 woo. And it's just like, ugh. Oh god.
You were gonna say something there, James. I saw you were like,
Yes, yeah.
No, I was
Yeah.
I sort of agree that it seems less serious now than it did when you first watched it. And you're right, it happens with a lot of things where adults like it, and it was sort of meant for maybe like young adults initially, but those adults have grown up. And like I used to watch like the old David Tennant Doctor Who's, and I think I stopped when Matt Smith was Doctor. I stopped watching then. But the who was it? It was Tennant, and before him it was
Christopher Eccleston.
Eccleston. Yeah,
hmm.
and that was good. And yeah, it seemed more serious then,
Yeah.
I think, and now it doesn't seem so much. And then that's
I stopped
Well,
what I
halfway through
liked about
Capaldi,
it. Yeah.
to be
hmm.
honest. I've,
Well, I'm talking of like the Tom Baker era, like I'm
yeah,
talking like right
way
back
back
into like
when.
this early '70s, '60s Doctor
Yeah,
Who,
the
where it was
original.
like really fucking dark,
I think
Yeah.
this. I
like
have the same problem with that
horrendous.
I do with the original Star Trek series, where I'm used to TV looking a certain way, and that
Sure, yeah,
doesn't
sure,
The
match my. It
yeah,
doesn't work with my
the
brain.
low budget. What do you mean the
I
low
get it.
budget non actual special effects where it's
I
just
get it.
people
Yeah,
in costumes?
You're a spoiled, entitled mofo that's just used to
yeah.
like
I
the
was
You
CGI
us dirty
generation.
millennials.
And
I
when and
was
when and
yeah.
when and when
Filthy
actors when
millennial.
actors get replaced with AI, you'll just like welcome them in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Who's to say
yeah.
that James is not an AI program? He is far
He
too good
is.
looking
Yeah,
for normal,
James
right?
is AI. Yeah, he's
This
AI.
is all digitally recreated. You should see me
Yep.
without the filter on the screen. That's why I only run online games.
Could
All your
could
monitors
DMs
are
be
actually
replaced with
projection
AI?
screens.
No, we couldn't, Rob. We couldn't be
No,
replaced with AI at all. No,
you don't think
no.
we could?
Oh,
Couldn't we?
this is a
We
Could
question
you
for
know
the
happen.
what?
ages, right?
Could
This could be a
happen.
whole
Yeah, could
podcast in and of
happen.
itself.
Could totally happen.
I don't think so. I
No.
I think an AI, as good as it is at adapting and answering questions, can't it can't. Okay, so let me rephrase this. I was going to say it can't predict the randomness that players will occur. I think it can predict, but not
Yeah,
satisfyingly answer it, right? I
yeah,
think that
yeah,
there is a human element to entertainment and
yeah,
keeping people laughing and rolling and funny that
yeah,
AI can't predict and
yeah,
can't
absolutely.
compensate for.
Mm.
Plus, like, D&D has evolved so much from what it used to be, right? Where it was just a dungeon combat simulator before. Now it's such a thick role-playing game, and we see excellent examples of that in Critical Role and other streams and such, where you can really tell a good story and explore these deep character arcs and feel like
Mm.
you can get emotional, right? I've made players cry. I've cried. I've players have made me cry. I've made myself cry. Like, you can really explore a lot of places, and I don't
Yeah.
know that we have. Maybe AI is capable of that at some point, of writing an emotional plot line, but not acting through it, you know.
No, you're right.
There's
It's
still a
yeah.
human element that needs to happen. Like, you can't train an artificial intelligence yet, at least, to
Mm.
emulate human emotion on such a level, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. And also as well, if the players are aware that they're being run by an AI DM, it would be it would change their approach to the game. I think
Yeah,
they would push
yeah,
the
you're
boundaries
right.
and test what they could and couldn't do, and you know what I mean. Like they'd make sort of decisions that they would never really make if it was a DM that was being
100%.
controlled by
100%.
someone.
It's the difference of playing like, it's similar to video games, right? You make different decisions in a video game versus in a live action role playing game, like,
Sure.
or just a role playing game at the table. um, you know, in a video game intrinsically that you are going to be bound by the rules, the mechanics, and the walls of that, right? Whereas in a game
Yeah.
like D&D, yes, there's mechanics and rules, but you can emulate anything you would want to do, or you can imagine your character doing. You can't imagine, in the new Spider-Man game, you can't, you know, walk into every store and order a coffee, for instance. But in D&D,
Exactly.
if you tell your DM you want to walk into the store and order a coffee, your DM is obliged to do that,
Hmm.
right? To follow
As long
along.
as
So,
coffee exists in that world and
right, right,
there's
exactly.
a
Or, you know,
cafe
instantly make
nearby
their
and
own fantasy version of coffee. Ah, yes,
yeah.
the magical extract of the cacao
Oh,
bean.
the cacao
Whatever.
bean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's true. It's. I think even with like the whole that's going on with Saccharafra and stuff at the moment, like with the AI enacting, it's
Hmm.
like with their
Wait, what? What happened?
yeah, right.
No, no, no. I'm dead serious. Zac Efron. What?
Is that right? Did I say
Sac
Saccharafra?
Afra. Sac.
Oh,
Saccharafra.
SAG.
Sag.
Saccharafra. Did I say it wrong? I
No,
probably
no, 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 no.
pronounced
You
it wrong.
said SAG AFTRA, and you said it
Yeah, I said
quickly,
it
and there
wrong.
was a bit of a glitch on my end, and I heard
Oh, was
Zac
it?
Efron. That's really fun. I was like, has he been AI this whole time? That
Yeah, he
explains
has.
so
Yeah,
much.
Turns
absolutely.
out he's not a
Yeah,
real man.
Saccharafra
Right.
is actually. Yep. Yep.
But no,
That's
yeah,
right.
no, you're right.
Yeah. So it's because I was having this conversation with Charlotte the other day 'cause she's an actor and she's not been working for like the last year because of the
Hmm.
strikes
Hmm.
and and she's like worried about it and I was saying to her like I was like at the end of the day the audience will decide. It's like you look at like how much entertainment medium is there on a flat screen that we watch on an evening? There's quite a bit. You've got cartoons, you've got anime, you've
Hmm.
got obviously TV shows, you've got movies, you've got all
Endless
this
amounts. Yeah.
different types of all essentially doing the same thing but a different approach to those to that entertainment. So a TV show for example is like it's a completely different approach to a movie.
Right.
Granted it has actors in it, but anime for example has voice actors in it. It's completely different. It's just
Yep.
a different approach. And I
Yep.
think if they have AI acting out different things, it will be more towards this Transformers end of the spectrum where it's
Hmm.
like action, action, bang, 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 yeah, yeah, yeah. Basically, things that actors they read a script and they're like, God, what a dog shit script this is. But I'm gonna do it because the money's amazing.
Yeah. Right.
I'll do it because the money's amazing. But
Yeah.
oh my god, like it's just full of exposition. It's just a load of crap, right? But like the true meaningful stories about the human experience you're going to want to have a human portraying that. You're not going to want to
Right.
have an AI portraying that.
Right.
But if you go to watch Star Wars 56 or whatever, and you're sat there and you probably won't care if it's acted out by whoever because it's just
That's
dog
true.
shit.
we'll
stuff.
end up living in a world that it shares, right? And I think
Yeah.
we're obviously too young to know this or to experience this, but I feel like this has probably happened in history many times so far
Sure.
with entertainment. Think about when TV came out for the very first time and threatened radio, or films, I guess, came out and threatened
Yeah.
radio, and then
Yeah.
everyone was like, "Oh no, the big screen is going to die because the television has been invented, and now TV shows are a thing." They still live side by side. You know,
Yeah.
movies started. We got talkies after silent films, and everyone thought, you know, that would end how certain things were. Yes, it ended the silent film industry, but they've it just kind of adapts and continues its
Yeah.
own life, right? We still have radio, we still have movies and alongside TV, and soon we'll have AI generated projects alongside human generated projects. So,
Absolutely. Well,
yeah.
even podcasts. I mean, who would have thought
Yeah.
of podcasts? You know,
Yeah.
people are just listening to us. You know, they're not
Yeah.
seeing us. You know, and it's the same kind of, and that was from a medium that was invented, effectively radio, I suppose,
Right. Right.
invented like in the earliest 20th century. So
Yeah,
it's
it just is
yeah,
rebranded in a way, right? This is kind of just still radio in a
yeah,
strange way, but
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
absolutely. Just radio
yeah.
on demand, I guess,
Right, right, right. Well, I
in
mean,
a way.
and how TV, everyone thought, you know, the streaming services would be the death of television. It hasn't really been. I mean, sure, there's probably less, but it's still there, right? It
Yeah.
just coexists at this point.
Well, it's like the best thing that ever happened to the horse was the car,
Right.
because horses were just like completely mistreated, like horrendously, just seen
Yeah.
as a commodity. I mean, they are, I suppose they are in a ways now, but
Still, in some
nowhere
ways.
near as bad as what it was,
Right.
And now they're like a treasured thing that you own if you have a horse.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to own a horse,
Right.
you probably love that horse to death. But before, go back 100 years, everyone had to have one, or
Yeah.
to a certain degree,
Yeah.
or
And you
whatever.
can't really flood a horse, right,
No, you
James?
can't.
That's true. You can't flood
Yeah,
a
right.
horse. They
You
can
can't flood a
swim.
horse.
In many ways, maybe I should be looking at horses instead of cars.
Maybe you should.
it would make my hour and a bit drive to Jade's every weekend slightly more difficult if I had to take
It wouldn't be a
horse.
drive anymore. It'd be a ride.
No, it'd be a
right?
ride.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd
You'd be a
turn
little
up
bit
with
more
saddle
sore.
sore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd reach level 40 as well because you had a mount.
Yep.
So,
That's right.
you'd obviously achieve
You
something
can
good
head to
there.
the Outlands now. Right?
Yep. Yeah. You could literally like go across that land. Oh, that was
Oh,
one of the best moments in World of Warcraft for me. Getting
yeah,
a horse,
when you first got your mount.
just going,
Mhm.
yeah. They're just like, yeah.
It
Although
felt
my
like
new-
This is
Bastion at the
quick.
top of the dragon, right, of the luck dragon. Yay! As he goes flying.
so my new job is only a 10-minute walk from mine. So theoretically, I could get a horse. It could keep my garden, the grass in my garden, nice and low.
Yeah, it's a lawnmower.
Well, you say that,
And I can
James.
ride to
Horses
work.
destroy land.
Oh, do
Yeah.
they?
Destroy land. Yeah. You look at
That's
look
fine.
at look
My
at any
garden's a
look at any
mess.
bit of meadow where you got a horse, and it is literally like the land is like
Ripped
fucked.
up and
Ripped
to
totally-
shreds.
Yeah, sure. Makes
Yeah,
sense.
you
If
can't
I'm
do
honest, my
anything with
garden's
it.
a little too small for a horse. Maybe
Get a
a
pony.
large goat.
or goat.
If I get a rideable goat,
Yeah, goat would work.
I'm golden.
I was at a farmer's market actually on when was it? It was Friday afternoon, and I was selling my coffee that I've been making.
Yeah.
Little plug for the coffee company that I've
Does it very
created.
good.
What's it called,
And,
Rob? Tell me more about this coffee.
The Last Unicorn Coffee Company.
Oh my gosh.
Named
That
after
sounds
my
delicious.
named after my ongoing D&D campaign that I keep creating and keep doing. I always theme it around this last unicorn, and the unicorn is like the source of all magic in the realm in my homebrew game. And that's basically, so I just named it after that. But I've been doing that, been roasting coffee for about a year, but I've just
Nice.
literally the last 2 months started my own business. And so there I was selling. So the story is basically I was at a farmer's market selling my coffee, and in my local town called Whitney. And Whitney is very much a sort of town where it's like there's a lot of sort of people just like going about their business, doing their like things or whatever. And I maybe sold 3 bags, but the guy next to me was a goat farmer selling goat meat, goat cheese,
What?
goat milk, yeah,
Ah,
goat like
clothing,
fleece
maybe
clothing,
like
clothing like socks and stuff,
scarves and stuff.
like
Uh-huh.
all that kind of business, like
Whoa.
ready meal goat curries, and he literally made like he cleaned out.
He banged. Yeah, he just made
He was there
bank.
for 4 hours, and he was literally like queues of people all queuing for this goat meat, and I was like, what the hell?
Goat
Why
meat,
is it?
man. Well,
Why is
because it's
goat?
novel, right?
Yeah,
You don't
I
typically
guess.
get that in coffee.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
I know. Yeah,
right?
maybe I should do something different to coffee. I go.
Yeah,
It's like thinking back
yeah.
in my brains. I was like, how the hell is he like? That's like
Goat meat.
incredible. Here I am freezing my ass off with all this coffee in front of me that I've like took me a week to roast, like trying to sell it. I just like, ugh.
Yep, yep. And then
Yeah,
the goat meat guy next to you is the one cleaning out. Gosh,
yeah, he's having a great
that's
old
terrible.
time. Yeah, it's bonkers.
That's fun.
Yeah,
That's so funny. Oh my
it's
gosh.
funny, isn't it? Well, I'm
Yeah.
guessing that's the end of the news.
I think so, yeah.
So what tales do we have from the tables then, JC?
Ooh, we do have some tales. So I know James and I definitely have a couple of Spectarium tales to tell.
Sweet.
But we're going to kick it off with Jordan's weekly Chronicles of Erin game, which
Oh
we've
yeah, nice.
covered before. And in his own words, from Jordan, we finished out the Chronicles of Erin Part 2 last night and had an action packed finale with his first PC death.
Oh man,
So he feels it should be immortalized in this podcast. Um,
lovely.
so here we go. Again, in his own words, we return to the party that have been adventuring in the plane of water. Through negotiations and in pursuit of their main goal, they have found themselves in an agreement with a Merid, which some of you may know as the water-based genie, which involves retrieving an item for him that they had previously traded to the Thieves Guild. Unfortunately, as part of their negotiations with the said Merid, the party bard was magically influenced by a hag they had interacted with before, causing him to insult the Merid to his face. Some decent rolls later, and the bard's life is spared, but he is fitted with a magical item that will explode if he moves against the Merid or tries to open the chest they are fetching for him.
Hmm.
Rushing back to the Thieves Guild hideout, they find it has already come under attack by Sea Spawn, Deep Scions, and Chull, all of which they have encountered before. Fighting their way inside, they find the majority of the guild has retreated through a secret door pursued by their attackers. They do, however, manage to find the chest they are looking for, but it is both open and empty.
Oh
The
no.
bard opts to pick it up and throw it into his pack just in case the Merid tries to twist their deal without the chest itself. Clever,
Right.
actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Heading into the secret basement, they find themselves inside these caverns formed in the ice that makes up the bottom half of the city of glass. They make quick
Mm.
work of the assailants, rescuing as many of the guild as possible. But right as they begin to discuss the terms of their rescue, they are interrupted by a familiar voice. The hag has returned, this time intent on killing all of the party and taking the item that they are after. Ugh. Several of the party rush her, intent on killing her as quickly as possible. But when her turn to act comes, she surprises everyone. Instead of attacking, she takes out an amethyst crystal and exclaims, "You're a bunch of little shits, and
Oh
that's
god.
what you'll be. Shit."
Oh no.
So obviously I don't know how Jordan does his hag voice, but there's a default generic one for you. The cavern rocks as a great crash echoes through its halls, then another, then the sound of shattering ice, and finally the bellow of an enormous creature as a fully grown remorez breaks through the walls, seemingly following the directions of Nanny Nightshade. A quick nature check allowed the fighter to work out that this was, in fact, and this is in quotes and in bold, very bad news, trademark. Given the chance to say one thing to the rest of the party, he settled on run. Those able to immediately began to flee, with the thieves shouting directions they did their best to escape. Our bard, however, realized that with the fighter engaged with Nanny and the remores soon to close in on them, he would have to move in to help him escape. Thinking quickly, he casts Fly on the already hasted fighter, giving him both the required actions to disengage and enough movement to get far away enough from the remores so that it wouldn't be able to reach him. Unfortunately, this left him much closer to the creature than he would have liked. The remores closed the distance, having to dash to get to him, but the bard was now engaged in combat. The rest of the party are well down the tunnel at this point, but if left unchecked, the creature would soon catch up to them, so the bard decided to make sure it couldn't. Standing close enough that the heat from the creature's body was causing his skin to burn and blister, he made a difficult decision. Clay, the dwarf bard, taking a stand to protect his party, his friends, pulled the chest from his pack, and remembering the conditions of the Merid's spell, he opens the lid. and there was an explosion. The force threw the rest of the party to the ground outside the cavern, and when they looked back, they saw nothing but collapsed ice and stone. Clay opened his eyes to the sound of a whetstone being drawn across a blade. He saw his uncle, a man who died many years before, and the reason he became an adventurer. He was sharpening his axe. His uncle looked up at him and smiled. "Took you long enough. Come on, we've still got a job to do." The dwarf stood up and moved to open the door, revealing brilliant white light. And the rest of the party, somber, angry, upset, and feeling just a little bit of survivor's guilt, convinces the guild to hand over the item that was in the chest as they set off to complete their mission. There
Nice.
you go.
Yeah, really, really nice. That's a lovely, lovely send off, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Long
really
live
good.
Clay the dwarf bard
Ah,
and
get
his
on,
heroic
Clay.
sacrifice.
Yeah, well done, Clay. Nice one. Cool.
Yeah.
So JC, so you got an update from your Spectorium game, is that right?
I do.
Okay,
So
cool.
this is actually a couple of weeks ago, but it was a pretty momentous occasion and kind of wacky, so I figured it would be good to immortalize. Basically what happened was my party, or the party in our
Yep.
game, they've entered the Feywild, and at this point they had befriended a small pixie named Tylena, who is trying to get them to a place where they can kind of figure out what's going on and maybe how to return home. Clearly there is something happening in the Feywild that's kind of threatening it, and it's leading to some dark forces, but they didn't know the whole story, so they said, it's time to go speak with Jenny, who is kind of like a recurring character I've talked about before, and she shows up in most of my games.
Cool.
So the pixie is leading them over to a bridge, but at the other end of the bridge, they see this beautiful, pale elven woman, no clothes, kind of combing her hair, her face away from them. She's facing away, her back is to them. She's singing to herself, and little by little, they start to get entranced by the song. And they all have to make wisdom saving throws. A couple of them fail. The rogue and our party fighter start to move closer to the sound of the voice because that's all they can focus on. That's all they want to do is be closer to this gorgeous, ethereal singing elf. And they
Nice.
take a step into one part of the bridge, and some of the bridge collapses out from underneath them. Luckily, they make their deck saves. But that's when everyone realizes there's a bit of danger, even those that are still kind of charmed by this supernatural song. So they were making their way closer to the voice, but that's when bits of the bridge started to give out from underneath them,
Oh no.
continuing. And that's when they started to realize that there was something going on, that there was danger present, right?
Shit.
And oh, yeah, two massive harpies, like women, but disfigured, huge feathery wings,
Oh yeah,
hard
yeah.
talons coming out, big claws started emerging from the trees. Even the one that had been sort of under this enchantment and this illusion spell that made her look like a beautiful elven woman suddenly turned
Mm.
into her true form and started pursuing the party. And they started trying to cut the ropes of the bridge. So long story short, too late. But eventually the party gets free of the song, right? They're no longer charmed. But they now have the problem that they're about to plunge into the cold river below because one of the harpies manages to cut through her end of the bridge. And so half of the bridge suddenly, this rope bridge suddenly starts hanging precariously on the side, and everyone has to make dex checks to like sort of hang on, and they're treating it as
Brilliant.
difficult terrain. And so the fighter starts to do something really strange. He has a bit of rope tied to him by the party rogue, and that part of the rope is also tied off to the bridge. So through this weird maneuver, he has his glaive, and so he has just enough reach to hit the harpy at the other end of the bridge, and I think he kills one of them. And at this point, he decides, in order to rescue another party member that was being carted away by one of the harpies in her talons, he decides to launch himself off the bridge that's already falling apart and tries to reach up with his glaive and hit this harpy at the same time as the rogue is
Oh
flying
man.
underneath the party member to try and catch them if they fall. but he basically misses this attack, but it was just so weirdly epic because he just launches himself into thin air with the rope still dangling from his waist. It kind of in a Tarzan way swings his way around, completely misses. George of the Jungle smashes into the side of the cliff wall and then takes some bludgeoning damage and then ends up falling down into the river below, but he's recently able to breathe underwater, so he starts treading water and ultimately ends up kind of saving the day. It was kind of insane, just a lot of weird little things happening all around, and I'm sure there's many more epic moments from that scene that I have not included, but they were pretty clever overall, and
great.
they obviously managed to get through it with a little bit of help from their pixie friend. So it was pretty cool.
And
Yeah.
they're an experienced bunch, aren't they, of players?
Yeah. So they have all played D&D before in different versions of it. Some have been playing D&D for a very long time. Some are a little bit newer to it as of playing 5th edition. But there's still something to be said for, a new environment and how creative they can get with it. It still felt very much like people testing and pushing the boundaries of the game and the mechanics of the system and stuff.
Yeah, so my tale from the tables this week was from my Spectarium game on Wednesday. We are currently running through a heist that is, of course, part of Keys from the Golden Vault.
Love a good heist.
Love a good heist. So what they are currently trying to do is steal back a musical instrument that has been grave robbed from a
grave?
now from a grave.
Funnily enough,
a grave. So it was from a bard, and they have risen from the dead, having had their instrument stolen from them.
Oh wow, okay.
Oh.
So to lay him to rest, they are going on an adventure to steal back the musical instrument that has been taken by a man named Scythian, who is running a conservatory for gifted musicians in the hope to bring some money in, and he wants to gift this magical musical instrument to one of his students.
Whoa, that's a bit of like a moral dilemma there, right? Do you let the kid have the musical instrument that needs it, or do you put the evil bard back to rest?
Well, he's a good bard. That does
right.
confuse it further. He is, well, as far as the players are aware, a good bard. The town that he was laid to rest in is his hometown that he saved as an adventurer many times and things like that. So it's interesting. So, but as it turns out, Scythian is deathly afraid of toads. So it's actually spoilers. Toads.
Oh, toads. I thought you said toads, and I was like,
It's getting real weird. No,
bit of a weird fetish thing there.
Although it'd be weird, I suppose it'd be more awkward for me to roleplay if he was super into toes. So I'm glad it's not that.
Amazing. Anyway, toads.
Yes. So spoilers actually from Axe from the Grave adventure as part of Keys from the Golden Vault. So
okay, cool.
He is deathly afraid of toads or frogs, having been eaten by a large toad as a child. Giant toad as a child. Not happy about that at all, and it is stuck with him the rest of well into his adult life. So they get to the conservatory and they decide that they're going to try and blag their way into the vault after our one of our players, Sevi, who is playing an artificer, went out into the river and caught 2 toads. And used those toads to infuse an object with toad noises. So they turn up at the conservatory, and as a reason to gain access, they convince Scythian and terrify him into believing that there are toads in the walls and in the pipes of the house, using this little music box, and then these 2 live toads that they discreetly put somewhere, and they're like,
Ah.
"See, look, toads. You got toads on the
You
walls."
got toads.
Uh,
Oh, this looks like a classic toad problem in your walls here.
there was a big spiel from our paladin about, hey, sometimes they rain from the sky, toads. I've seen it before, man. It's
Oh
it's an
my
act of
God.
God. And what it looks like is that's happened. A load of them have dropped on the roof, got stuck in gutters, and made their way down through the walls. So that's how they very easily bypass a lot of the adventure. But they're not
Brilliant.
sneaking around the house anymore. They're being shown very easily around the different rooms as he's like, please, anything to get rid of the toads from the house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So
Really, really cool.
Poor person scarred for life by the fake toads. Jesus.
I guarantee they'll leave that little music box of toad noises somewhere
Oh,
when they
most
leave as
definitely.
well. Yeah.
As parties are wont to do, just for fun, torture other people.
That will go off every night at 3 o'clock in the morning in his bedroom.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, great.
Brilliant.
Great. Well, thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining us for this week's podcast. Tune in for next week. We've got we actually have some live streams coming up this month.
Yeah.
James, you've got one, haven't you, for
I have
November?
indeed.
We're doing
Indeed.
on the 17th of November. It's going to
Correct.
be streaming on the Rolldark Twitch channel. You'll find information for that in the description below the podcast. And yeah, we've also got Rolldark Fest coming up, which isn't a live stream, unfortunately. But if you've got a ticket for it, great. We've actually sold out, so you can't come.
Yes.
But hopefully we will be announcing the new Rolldark Fest 3.
Whoa. What?
Around about end of November time. Yes.
My.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, the wheels are in motion. So
Amazing.
yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
So thanks everyone. And
Thanks.
yeah, we will you'll hear us next week.
That's right. And in the
Thank you.
meantime, have a happy Halloween.
Yes, happy Halloween, everyone.
Cool.
Take care, guys.